And we're back, and we just finished watching 2021's Malcolm and Marie, currently streaming on Netflix. The film is rated R. It's an hour and 46 minutes. It's written and directed by Sam Levinson and tells the story of a director and his girlfriend who returned home after, I guess, his biggest movie premiere to date. Or maybe, was this his first film? I don't remember. It felt like he did other stuff, but this was like the big
I think he did other stuff, but nothing that he was like truly
proud of,
I guess.
Yeah.
And this was his first, I guess, grand showing where there was like lots of critics and there was like a big party.
Yes, this is technically the biggest night of his career.
Biggest night of his career.
But it sort of goes south. Are we spoiling, or are we talking first impressions and then spoiling?
There's not really much in the way of spoiling.
Spoilers, right.
I guess is it a spoiler just to say that this film is basically an hour and a half long argument?
I know, because I think the trailers give it away. That there's
okay. So I didn't really even know that there were trailers, but that pretty much sums it up. It's an hour and a half long argument, to the point where all I could think when I'm watching it is just go to bed. Go to bed. Stop talking to each other.
So I guess I'll start. I don't think I disliked this as much as you did. I thought it was interesting. I thought the writing was interesting. I thought the use of black and white was interesting. And I feel like interesting is not a really good word, right? It's very bland to describe this. It's almost like pity. It's like a pity adjective, I guess. The thing that jumped out to me the most watching this was this felt more like a theater piece. This felt more like a play.
This felt more like a play. Like the set was completely unnecessary. It could have just been them on a stage.
Right. Because they don't really, I mean, they go into different rooms, but it could have all taken place in one location. This whole arc, because you're absolutely right. This basically is an argument movie.
Yeah, it's as soon as they get home, you could see something's wrong with her. He's on top of the world, and she's
got that face.
She has like the sour look on her face, and it's like 1 o'clock in the morning, and he wants mac and cheese, and she makes him mac and cheese, and he seems oblivious to the fact that she's upset.
Is he though? Because he's prodding her, and finally she's like, let's just forget about it. Let's not go in this direction.
It takes a while for him to notice that she is upset.
Perhaps.
At least that's how it felt to me. It took, because I could tell she was upset immediately, and he's putting music on. He's dancing around the living room.
Right.
He's rambling on about all the people that were at the critics that were there, and the people that were blowing smoke up his butt, and all of this other stuff, and then finally he seems, it registers, like he tries to he's like kissing her, and I think it's at that point when he
gets the vibe that she's
something is bothering her.
So the other thing I thought of when I was watching this film was, I don't know if you've ever seen Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. Have you ever seen that movie?
No, I've never seen it.
It's with Richard Burton and Liz Taylor. And watching
I've seen bits of it,
pieces,
and that's another film where, from the bits that I have seen, it's pretty much just two people abusing each other.
Just going after each other. Yeah. So that was the other thing that when I was watching this movie that I was thinking about, and how uncomfortable some of this conversation felt as an audience member, as a voyeur, as somebody that's looking into the really battered and fractured relationship that these two have. I think another thing that while we were watching this, we both turned to each other and were like, these two people have no business being together. Because
You know-
when they go after each other, it's brutal. It is really uncomfortable and very, very brutal, to the point where I know I'm watching a work of fiction, and yet I am uncomfortable sitting here looking in on this emotional tsunami crazy mess that is the relationship of Malcolm and Marie.
It's funny when we were watching it, you mentioned that it reminded you of the episode of Cheers.
Yes, with John Cleese.
John Cleese. And when I think about this, like when I was watching it, it reminded me of a similar themed episode from Rick and Morty, where they go to that intergalactic marriage counselor, Beth and Jerry.
Okay.
And there's a stage in it where like their thought creatures are basically slaughtering everybody, and the doctor screams, "Oh God, they're codependent!" And that's what this was.
Yeah.
Their misery
Yeah.
was dependent upon each other. They relied upon each other, but they were also like just the source of each other's misery, and their misery was what apparently they milked success out of this misery.
Right.
And I never actually felt the way you just described that, you know, you were uncomfortable. I didn't feel uncomfortable about it. I felt exhausted by it. And I think part of the problem for me was they're both great actors.
Yes.
Okay.
I was going to say, for a movie that by the end of it, I was like, please finish, please hurry and finish. Because I think I got to that point at one point as well. They are absolutely luminous.
Yeah, they're both.
They are like lions. I look at Zendaya, and I'm just like, she is like on the brink of becoming the most amazing thing on like film. She is powerful. She is riveting. She is heartbreaking. She is gut-wrenching. She is infuriating. She is devastating. She is like, who's the goddess of destruction in
Shiva?
She is Shiva. I mean, she is like a force of nature in this movie.
I mean,
at some parts she's gentle and kind, she's loving, but then in other pieces she is ruthless, and her acting performance just blew me away.
You know what was funny? She was really good. Both of the actors were really good.
Yeah, I was going to go on about
she was
John
excellent.
David as well.
The only part of the film where I was like, all right, now she's acting, was the part where she's
acting. Well, we both picked that up, right? We're like, oh no, she's acting now.
It's not real. But back to what I was saying.
Sorry.
I just found it exhausting, and I think part of the problem is I'm like I stated, they're both great actors. They both gave hell of performances. For me, the thing that took it away from being uncomfortable and really, I guess, hitting home as far as like touching an emotion other than exhaustion or annoyance was probably the writing. It was well written, but it wasn't true in that when people are that pissed off and arguing with each other,
they're not so eloquent.
They're not so together. I mean, the things they were saying to each other were like epic speeches. This is like the Lincoln Douglas debates or something. They had like material that they drew from, and it wasn't just a couple of little
poisonous
tiny
barbs.
spats or little barbs here and there or back and forth. It was them taking turns just
eviscerating
one each other for huge chunks of time. Like she would go after him, and it would be like 15 solid minutes of her just tearing him apart. Then he would come back with like 20 minutes of just deep psychological analysis about why she's horrible. And then she would come back with, oh, you're a narcissist, and have this epic speech. And we make jokes about how we talk on this podcast, saying like and you know. There isn't any of that.
Right.
Probably, maybe they substituted the likes and uhs and you knows with F words and C words, because
there's an abundance of that. Wow.
Oh my God. I don't think I've ever seen a movie with this much cursing.
Yeah.
And I've seen a lot of profane movies. Like a lot of profane movies. This took the cake. They
used the F word like the word "the" in this thing. It was so funny.
In the very beginning, I think he said, I think he had a sentence where he says the F word 3 times.
You're probably not wrong.
They're like weaving it in there, but always with eloquence.
Yes.
Always with, purpose and drive, as far as just berating and just tearing down the other.
Yeah.
And I'm like, after this, there is no fucking way that they're going to be like, all right, okay, let's make up.
Yeah, yeah.
And even when all is said and done, are they okay? I don't even freaking know.
I don't know, because the ending is so ambiguous. Do you know what happens at the end? They're filmed outside.
They're filmed outside, and they're just standing next to each other. They're not even like holding hands or there's got a good foot of space between them, and it's like, can anything ever be normal after all that?
The things that they said to each other, yeah.
Yeah, because it wasn't just like, you're a jerk.
No,
it was like, you're a jerk because A, B, C, and D, and here's the evidence for each of these, and I'm going to go into extreme graphic detail explaining it, and when I'm done, you won't be able to say
boo.
Boo.
Yeah.
And then the guy's like, or she's like, all right, can't say boo about that. They wallow in pity or defiance or whatever, and then
the next person comes
they come back in with a completely new set of arguments, tearing the other person down.
Yeah.
It was brutal, and like I said, after a while, it was just exhausting, because and it didn't like
feel
hit
real
home to me, because like I said, the writing was just too. You could tell that when this person wrote this stuff down, whatever his name is.
Sam Levinson.
Sam Levinson.
Who did your show, Euphoria.
Oh, I'm not a big fan of that show either. But, you could see that there was a lot of thought and rewriting going into this to get the most powerful impact. And the problem is that they kind of lost a human voice to it. It's like getting berated by a stage actor who has an entire monologue memorized in their head.
Yeah.
It's powerful. It's a powerful performance, but the actor isn't yelling at you, pointing out your flaws, so you don't feel that. You don't feel that that pain or that oh my God, they're really hitting home for me, and I just couldn't see the other people feeling that way either, because like I said, it's just so manicured a speech that it lost its authenticity, which was like another authenticity was a big buzzword.
You know what? I sort of agree with you. I think it was too manicured, too polished. People, when they argue, and especially when they come after each other, it is not that eloquent. It is not that long.
You know what? The truest moment was when they just devolved into roaring at each other for that one minor scene.
Yeah.
They was just like ah, ah, and then that was probably the truest moment as far as arguing with each other went.
Right.
After that, it was just they may have well have been wearing tights and holding skulls in their hands and reciting Shakespeare.
Yeah, I mean, it felt like, and I don't know, I just completely spitballing here, but it felt like to me, the writer definitely had a lot of stuff to work through, and maybe compiled and compounded life experiences into this one piece. It felt heavy. It felt like the culmination of rejection and loss and anger and whatever else this writer has felt. A lot of times people write about what they know, and I think that always holds true. I'm sure there's times when people write about things they don't know, like living on, very far terrain from here and in space, but I think that this particular piece might have been an exorcism for this writer, which kudos, however you need to battle these demons, that's great. But I also see your point of view as well, and it does get heavy, it does get bogged down. You start to wonder, who talks like this? Who argues like this? I mean, at this point, it's funny because I think at one point you and I turned to each other and we were like, at 1:30, if we were coming home at 1:30, it would be like, I gotta brush my teeth and go to bed. I'm too. But that's because we're old, I guess. But even when we were younger and dating, I don't think we would have done something like that. But whatever. I feel like this would have worked better. I feel like this would have worked better as a play.
It would have worked better as a play, but to your point of, and plus another reason why it doesn't ring true is I have never had that much bile and venom towards you, and I can't imagine ever having that much. Like, these people had
pent up
real
rage,
deep-rooted problems with the other.
Yeah.
It was like, just go to bed, wake up, and just get separate apartments and just stop seeing each other.
Yeah. And when he kept saying, before I go into this, so I also want to give a shout out to John David Washington, who is
excellent, yes,
fantastic in this as well.
Great.
Also, I can't wait to see other stuff with him in it. He is just a force to be reckoned with as well. He is many things in this film. He is that guy. Like, he just played it. I believed everything that came out of his mouth. As crazy as those speeches were, I felt everything. Yeah. That's how good he was. It felt like this is really happening. But at the same time, I feel like they should not be together. At the end of the day,
no, they're not.
When he says "I love you" to her, I'm like, what? And I'm watching this, and I'm like, what does that mean? Because it felt like a contest, like who could eviscerate the other one so neatly and so well. Because they kept going back and forth at each other, and it didn't stop. Yeah. And at some point, it's like, I agree with you. It's exhausting. It's like, ding, 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 go to your separate corners. That house is big. I'm sure you have a guest room. Somebody should sleep in the other bedroom for the night.
Yeah, just go to bed.
I don't recognize love like this.
Well, I mean, that was. I don't think it is recognizable because, like I said, the way they spoke and the order of the thinking. I mean, it's funny. I guess it's a testament to their skills as actors to so passionately deliver that dialogue when the dialogue itself was, to me, it didn't have passion. It was so thought out. It was so analytical. It was like it was written by Spock.
Well, the thing, it's funny because they sell it as like a relationship piece. At least that's the impression I've gotten from the trailers and the things that I've read, that this is like an examination about a relationship. But it's like, to me, perhaps it is, but it's more like the end of a relationship. Or
it
because
definitely
I
felt
felt like even though they're saying I love you to each other, I feel like the more dominant emotion here is hate.
I agree. I feel like she felt extremely
Slighted,
used and slighted by him, and he felt that he was doing what he did because he was an artist who does what he does. Mm-hmm. And I gotta be honest, I don't know who was really in the right, because like I said, it was like they were lawyers. They were presenting such convincing arguments on either side.
On either side, yeah.
And it was just so... for something that was supposed to not be rehearsed, was something that was supposed to be, we're getting into it, we're having a fight. It just felt like, okay, you stand over there, I'll stand over here. Here's my book of what I hate about you, and I'm going to start reading from it, and you read your book about what you hate about me. It was just, there was no way in my mind that I could believe that these people were saying this stuff off the cuff.
Right. Well, that's the other thing. It also came off as, at least my perspective of the Marie character, it came off as like this was compounded interest of years and months and days of just swallowing stuff to the point that now she just erupted. And I don't know if the thank you really was the trigger that made this happen, or maybe she was just done and she needed to say these things to him. But at the same time, he's not coming from a place of goodwill to me anyway, or his character, I should say, isn't coming from a place of goodwill to me either, because for every arrow that she throws at him, he seems to orchestrate in his mind the strategy to come back to the battlegrounds with even more ammunition.
Yeah.
Like, the things that they say to each other are very, very hurtful. Very hurtful. To the point where I'm like, how do you come back from this? How do you forgive? How do you forget? How do you move on? They said some really nasty shit to each other. Like, awful.
Yeah.
You know? And I think that as a woman, first of all, I don't think I would put myself in that kind of situation. I would never be with someone who made me feel that way. I would have walked out long ago. Like, I don't equate feelings of, I don't know, maybe, what's the word, debt? Maybe she felt like she owed him something because he saved her.
Yeah, maybe because of the situation that she was in.
Right, and he was sort of like her savior in that respect. I wouldn't equate that with love, though. So if I'm saying to someone, I love you, it doesn't come from a feeling of obligation. It comes from an organically grown emotion where I need you, I want you, I can't live my life without you.
That was one of his arguments to her, remember?
Yeah.
You know? But, you know.
You know.
I should have replaced that, you know, with a big fuck.
We also did not watch this with the children.
Yes, the kids were...
We originally started to, and then I think like not even 2 minutes in.
I was not on board with the kids being present from the get-go.
Yes, you are correct.
There reached a point where I would just stop the movie and was like, all right, get out.
You were right. I'm sorry.
This was
a little too much for little eyes. Absolutely.
Not a movie for
This
children.
is not a movie for young children.
Absolutely
and there is
not. No way you should think that either.
Yes. Listen, I grew up with like 70s horror where people are running amok and naked all the time.
This is not that.
This is not that.
This is abusive.
I mean, it's mostly blah blah. I think the kid would have been bored at some point and been like, yeah, I'm done with this.
Yeah.
But it definitely starts out very risque, let's say.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is not for children at all. It's rated R, and rightfully so.
Yeah.
The F word had a party in this movie. It invited all its friends and family.
The C word made several appearances. So yeah.
I mean, I feel like it's a decent film.
I don't know. I can't really recommend this film to anybody.
Interesting. I feel like it's a decent film. It's not my favorite film, which is interesting because the performances were illuminating.
They're both, like I said, they
were amazing. I think this piece would have worked better as a theater production.
I mean,
even though it sort of felt like that because
it's okay as a movie. It's just, like I said, you have two really good actors. They're passionate in their roles. They play their parts very well. You sense their feelings and emotions. It's just that script. It's just
too much.
It's too polished. Nobody who is speaking like that with one another, nobody in a relationship who has a fight with somebody in a relationship like that can deliver that much dialogue. That's what it felt. It was dialogue.
Yeah.
They were delivering dialogue to each other.
Yeah.
They weren't talking to each other. There's a difference. It's a subtle difference, but it's a difference, and you know it. If you've been in love and you've had an argument with somebody,
you don't talk like this.
No, you're not. You're not giving a dissertation, and if you are in a relationship and you're in a fight with someone and they do give you this kind of talking to,
run.
You're in the relationship with like a sociopath, okay? Get out, run. Normal people don't do this.
Yeah.
Unless it's like two people in a movie with a script written by a guy who probably rewrote the hell out of this thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, can't really. It's not going to get my recommendation.
All right, so scale of 1 to 10, what would you give this movie?
I would probably give it a 5 just because it has strong acting in it. It's nicely shot.
It's beautifully shot.
It's beautifully shot.
The house that they shoot it in is amazing.
It has the basis of a good, interesting story. It's just the dialogue is just so polished and
it's
so
too much.
It's just too much.
Yeah.
It's like it would be like going to see an action movie and it's just nothing but punch for an hour and a half.
A question for you. I just thought of this. Would it have made a difference? And something that I read about this movie was that it was filmed during COVID. It was very strict guidelines to comply with, I guess, SAG and stuff, regulations. If they had filmed it in a way where you felt there was a passage of time that would have helped the script, right? Because it's like this is now different days.
No.
And this argument is continuing. Or no?
No.
No? Okay.
It's seriously, it's just the dialogue. It's too polished. There's a you can make something too precious, and it was just too much. It really was too much, and it robs the film of its realism. People do not talk like that, especially people in love and people who are passionate and people who are hurt.
It's more messy. It's
exactly. Life is messy.
Yeah.
It's not perfect
it would have
soliloquies.
been all over the place,
we would love it if we could give these great, perfect soliloquies where we cut to the bone with our words, you know. But that stuff doesn't come. That's prepared. That's why movies are fake, you know. I mean, probably the most honest thing is in a comedy where they're making fun of action films, and after the guy does something, they come out with a cheesy one-liner that doesn't quite hit, and like the other person goes, "Oh man, you should have said this," and they're like, "Oh yeah, that would have worked so much better."
Okay, well, I would give this movie a little bit more than you, 6.5. I think it's a beautiful movie. I think it's a great springboard for Zendaya, or is it Zendaya? I
think it's Zendaya. I think whenever I've seen her interviewed, I'm pretty sure they say Zendaya.
I think it's a great springboard for her. I mean, this is somebody who also is coming up through the Disney Channel ranks, right?
I hear that. I gotta be honest, I don't watch Disney stuff. It enrages me.
No, she was on a show, I believe. I think we missed it. Like, it wasn't our kids' age range, but I'm pretty sure that she was. And
was she one of those High School Musical people?
No. She was on something else. I think she was like a kid spy or something, or I don't know, whatever. But I just wanted to say that she is like an open wound to watch.
Yeah, you could see that she carries
she definitely has like heft to her.
Yeah.
Her emotions are on plain display. It's almost like she rips open her chest to show you what's on the inside. That's, at least to me, that's her acting style, and it's brilliant and it's amazing. And it's interesting that someone that young has channeled this. And I am looking forward to seeing her in a lot of things. I mean, I love her as like MJ in the Spider-Man movies. I didn't see Euphoria, so I don't know. But she's...
I only saw a couple episodes and I was like, this is ridiculous.
I feel like she's interesting to watch, and she has an amazing career in front of her. Same thing with John David Washington. He is magnetic. He is like almost like a car wreck. Like, you cannot take your eyes away from him. He also channels all this.
They both show a huge range in this film.
Yes, amazingly so.
She goes from being sort of like almost morose and
sullen and quiet.
Sullen, and then there'll be moments where she's sad to the point of crying, and then other parts where she's happy and sort of flirtatious, and the same thing with him.
Yeah, he definitely goes the range too.
They're both
amazing.
They're both outstanding actors.
I feel like the only reason to watch this film, or the main reason to watch this film, is to see their performances. Their performances are absolutely brilliant.
They're the highlights of the movie. That's why. For sure. I mean, that's why I can't give it like a negative rating. So I'm gonna make it like flat. Right, flat 5 right in the middle.
I would give it a 6.5. I think it was interesting. I think the kernel of the story was interesting. I do agree with you. It does get bogged down. There's just too much of it. Again,
there were so many points
my reading was this writer really is angry and needs to work out his issues. But It's definitely not for lovers, that's for sure. This is
This
definitely
Valentine's
this
Day
is a
movie.
Valentine's Day fare, my friends. But I mean,
holding
if
a
you,
radio over their head at the end.
there was no Lloyd Taub in this. But yeah, I mean, if you are looking for something new, it just came out on Netflix tonight, so check it out. It's not a bad watch. It is long, it is heavy. At the end of it, I was like, man, I need a drink. This really put me through my paces.
I say skip it and go right to the drink.
Well, that's it from us, and we will come back soon with another review. Good night.
Good night.